In 1945, American troops were pushing through the islands of the Pacific. They found Japanese weapons everywhere, in wrecked villages, in abandoned strongpoints, in deep bunkers cut into rock. Among the Arisaka rifles, the mortars, the discarded gear, they kept finding the same light machine gun, small, light, with a strange magazine sitting on top. It looked nothing like the heavy machine guns of the European armies. This was the Type 96 light machine gun, a weapon Japan built after studying the lessons of the First World War. A gun meant to make Japanese infantry more mobile. A gun meant to solve the Japanese army's central problem, how to give an ordinary soldier serious firepower without the weight of a heavy tripod-mounted machine gun. But the Type 96's story turned out to be a contradiction. It was inventive, it had unusual engineering, it was accurate, and it was fielded by a country that was about to face an enemy with a vastly larger industrial base. When Japanese soldiers carried it into the jungles of Malaya, onto the islands of the Pacific, and across China, it became a symbol of both Japanese engineering and the limits of the system that built it. This is the story of the Type 96, a gun designed for a modern war, fielded by an army that was slowly losing the ability to fight one. The story of the Type 96 doesn't start in the Second World War. It starts after the First. That war rewrote the rules of infantry combat. Soldiers could no longer walk in tight formations toward the enemy. Machine guns made open assaults almost suicidal. A single gun crew could stop an entire unit. Armies everywhere started looking for an answer. Heavy machine guns had enormous firepower, but a serious drawback: they were too heavy. Moving them took several men, often a special cart. Japan studied the European approach closely, especially the French Hotchkiss M1922. That French concept of a light machine gun shaped Japanese thinking. The idea was simple: build a weapon one crew could carry alongside advancing infantry. Infantry needed its own source of firepower, not a weight for a heavy machine gun unit. It needed to move with the troops themselves. In the 1930s, the Japanese army began developing a new light machine gun, drawing on proven designs and adapting them to army requirements. It entered service in 1936 as the Type 96 light machine gun. The name followed Japan's numbering system. Type 96 marked the imperial year 2596, or 1936. The gun was chambered for Japan's standard 6.5 by 50 mm Arisaka round, the same cartridge used in the Type 38 rifle. The Army wanted a single infantry caliber to simplify supply, but the Type 96 had some unusual features. The most obvious one, the magazine, sat on top. That came with real advantages: a simpler, more reliable feed mechanism, and a gunner who could check his ammunition at a glance. But it had a cost, too. A taller silhouette that made the gunner easier to spot and less comfort firing prone. The top-mounted magazine was far from the only thing that set the Type 96 apart. Japanese engineers put real weight on reliability. The gun ran on gas operation. Firing drove propellant gas through a port in the barrel to cycle the action, and the bolt locked with a set of locking lugs. The system was built to keep working in dust, mud, and tropical humidity. That mattered enormously to the Japanese army. Its wars in Asia were fought far from well-equipped bases. Infantry moved through mountains, rice paddies, dense forest, tropical jungle, and the weapon had to keep functioning where ordinary equipment broke down fast. One of the Type 96's most interesting features was a quick-change barrel. Sustained fire heated the barrel, and pushed too far, that heat became a real problem for the gun. So the design let a crew swap it. Open a latch, pull the hot barrel, drop in a spare. In theory, that let the crew keep firing. In practice, the Type 96 still wasn't built for prolonged, continuous fire. It remained a light machine gun, meant to support infantry with short, controlled bursts. Another unusual feature, it could mount a bayonet. That sounds strange for a machine gun, but the Japanese army treated the light machine gun as part of the standard infantry squad, and Japanese infantry doctrine put real emphasis on close combat. Fitting it to take a standard Japanese bayonet made the Type 96 one of the few production light machine guns of the war built with hand-to-hand fighting in mind. The sights were unusual too. The Type 96 carried an adjustable sight for different ranges, and the design allowed an optical scope to be mounted, unusual for a light machine gun of that era, and useful for engaging targets accurately at longer distances. At the same time, it kept the ability to lay down suppressive fire across an area. That combination reflected how Japan saw the role of a squad machine gun, not just a tool for suppression, but a weapon that could put accurate fire on individual targets when it needed to. Still, the Type 96 had a real problem. It was built around the 6.5 by 50 mm Arisaka round, a cartridge Japan had used for years with moderate recoil that made the gun easy to control. But by the mid-1930s, Japanese planners were leaning towards something more powerful. The Type 99 rifle was already being designed for a new 7.7 by 58 mm round. That created a headache. The Army now ran two main rifle calibers, 6.5 mm and 7.7 mm, which was far from ideal for supply. In 1939, the Army adopted a new light machine gun, the Type 99, essentially a further development of the Type 96 with one major change. It fired the 7.7 by 58 mm round. So Japan was shifting toward the heavier caliber. But the Type 96 didn't disappear. It stayed in service, especially where large stocks of 6.5 mm ammunition already existed. Both systems ended up fighting the war side by side, adding real strain to logistics. Units could end up with rifles in one caliber and machine guns in another, depending on when they were issued and which unit they served in. The Type 96 entered service while Japan was already deep into a full-scale war in China. From 1937, Japanese forces fought the Second Sino-Japanese War, and that's where the Type 96 earned most of its early combat experience. Infantry moved over long distances. Units fought through offensives and assaults on fortified positions. And in that kind of fighting, a light machine gun mattered enormously. It could keep up with the infantry, needed no heavy mount, and let a squad build its own concentrated fire. The Army fielded it within infantry squads, usually with a crew of several men. One soldier ran the gun, the rest carried ammunition and spare parts. That mattered because the gun alone was only part of the system. Without enough magazines and ammunition, its firepower dropped fast. Unlike belt-fed guns, the Type 96 used 30-round box magazines. That had its advantages, fast to swap, and its drawback. Ammunition needed constant replenishing, and in a heavy fight, a gunner could burn through his magazines quickly, so the crew had to carry a real ammunition reserve. Fire discipline mattered just as much. The Type 96 wasn't meant to fire continuously. It was built around short bursts, which kept the gun controllable, saved ammunition, and limited barrel heat. In real combat, a lot came down to crew training. A well-trained gunner could use the weapon to real effect, while a poorly trained crew ran into trouble fast. In China, the Type 96 saw every kind of terrain. Japanese forces fought in major cities and in the countryside, on plains, in mountains, in forests, in towns. Everywhere, the light machine gun did one of its core jobs, keeping the infantry moving forward. In an assault on a fortified position, it could suppress enemy strongpoints while riflemen advanced. On defense, it turned into a way to hold ground, covering a sector and firing on anything that appeared. But China was only the beginning. By the late 1930s, Japan ran into a far more serious opponent, the Soviet Union. One of the defining episodes was the fighting at Khalkhin Gol, where Japanese and Soviet forces clashed in Mongolia in 1939. The conflict ended in a heavy defeat for Japan and exposed the real gap between the two armies. The Soviets brought far more artillery, tanks, aircraft, and other support, and Japanese infantry ran into modern mechanized warfare head-on. For the Type 96, that was a hard lesson. A light machine gun could support infantry effectively, but it couldn't replace artillery, couldn't stop tanks, and couldn't shift a fight where the enemy had overwhelming heavy equipment superiority. Khalkhin Gol showed Japanese command exactly how dangerous it was to take on an industrially stronger opponent. Soon enough, the army found itself pulled into a far bigger war. In December 1941, Japan attacked the United States and its allies across the Pacific. Japanese forces advanced fast across a huge stretch of territory: Malaya, the Philippines, the Dutch East Indies, Burma, the islands of the Pacific. The Type 96 was at the center of it. Now it had to work in entirely new conditions. Instead of the plains of China, Japanese soldiers were fighting in tropical jungle, in heavy humidity, driving rain, mud, and a supply chain under constant strain. Early on, Japanese infantry made real gains. In Malaya, forces pushed south fast, machine guns backing up small mobile units that moved on roads, through jungle, sometimes on bicycles. The Type 96 fit that style of warfare well, far more mobile than a heavy tripod gun, easy for a crew to carry alongside the unit. Then the picture began to change. The Allies kept building up their forces, and Japan ran into growing superiority in the air, at sea, in artillery, and in industrial output. The Type 96 kept doing its job, but more and more of that job was defense. On the Pacific Islands, Japanese troops dug in. Bunkers, trenches, caves, underground tunnels. And the Type 96 went into those positions. Gunners held concealed firing points and waited. When U.S. Marines came forward, the guns opened fire. For attacking infantry, those positions could be a real obstacle. But American forces brought overwhelming artillery and air power, and the defenses came apart position by position. No matter how effective the gun was, it couldn't shift the overall balance of the war. For all its strengths, the Type 96 had serious drawbacks. The first was its feed system. A 30-round magazine was compact, but it limited sustained fire. Gunners had to swap magazines constantly and keep close track of ammunition, especially in a heavy fight. The second was maintenance. The Type 96's design used a lot of parts, some of which needed regular cleaning and lubrication. In the jungle, that got hard fast. Dirt worked its way into the mechanism. Humidity sped up corrosion, and a shortage of oil and spare parts made upkeep worse. But the biggest weakness was the war itself. Japanese industry was falling further and further behind America's. Early on, Japan could still turn out quality weapons. As the war dragged on, that got harder. Raw materials ran short, fuel ran short, transport ran short. Factories came under bombing, sea lanes were cut, and producing weapons became steadily harder. By 1944 and 1945, the Japanese army was mostly on the defensive. The Type 96 stayed in service, but its role had changed. Where it had once backed offensives, it now defended the last positions. On Saipan, on Peleliu, on Iwo Jima, on Okinawa. Japanese gunners held fortified positions and waited for the American advance. On Iwo Jima, the defense was built around an elaborate network of underground fortifications, firing positions linked by tunnels, machine guns placed to create interlocking fields of fire. The Type 96 was part of that system. Gunners opened fire from hidden positions, then shifted before they could be pinned down. That tactic made individual strongpoints hard to knock out. On Okinawa, the same story played out on an even bigger scale. Japanese forces built a deep, layered defense, and machine guns became part of the broader resistance. But the Americans threw in massive artillery, air power, tanks, and flamethrowers, and the defense collapsed piece by piece. Once again, the Type 96 pointed to the war's real lesson. Even good small arms can't make up for a lack of resources. In August 1945, Japan surrendered. The war ended, but the Type 96 didn't disappear right away. American troops captured huge quantities of Japanese weapons, light machine guns among them. Some Type 96s went home as war trophies, others stayed in Asia. After the war, Japanese weapons ended up in the hands of various armed groups, some in China, others scattered through conflicts across Asia. But the era of the Imperial Japanese Army was over. Today, the Type 96 stands as a historical record of the Second World War. For collectors, it's interesting for more than the hardware itself. It traces the path of the Japanese Army, from studying European designs to building its own light machine gun system. The Type 96 was an attempt to modernize Japanese infantry, mobile, relatively light, accurate, well-suited to supporting rifle units. But it had real limits: a small magazine, a demanding supply chain, heavy maintenance needs, and, above all, dependence on an industrial system that was slowly falling apart. The story of the Type 96 isn't just the story of one machine gun. It's a story about how a weapon reflects the capacity of the country that builds it. Japanese engineers set out to build light infantry support suited to modern war. They drew on European experience, built their own design, added unusual features, made the gun mobile, and shaped it around the needs of Japanese infantry. The Type 96 fought in China, at Khalkhin Gol, in the offensives of 1941 and 1942, in the defense of the Pacific Islands, and in Japan's final battles. It went from a weapon of an advancing army to a weapon of an army making its last stand. Early in the war, it moved with Japanese infantry. By the end, it sat in bunkers and fortifications. There's a real historical irony in that. A gun built to give infantry mobile firepower turned by the war into a tool of defense. When the Japanese Empire surrendered in 1945, the Type 96 was left behind, in abandoned trenches, caves, and bunkers across the Pacific. A trophy to some, a war souvenir to others. To historians, an example of Japanese weapons engineering. But its real story runs deeper. Because the Type 96 shows that the outcome of a war isn't decided by the quality of one weapon. You can build a reliable gun, you can make it accurate, you can give the infantry mobile firepower. But if your enemy holds the advantage in industry, logistics, air power, and artillery, even a good weapon can't change the course of history. That's why the Type 96 remains one of the more interesting Japanese weapons of the Second World War. Not because it was the best light machine gun of its time, and not because it changed the war's outcome, but because its story traces the entire arc of the Japanese army, from confidence and advance to exhaustion and defense, from a modern engineering idea to a weapon carried by soldiers in the war's final year. The Type 96 was built to give Japanese infantry firepower. History had other plans. It became the weapon of an army that was slowly losing the ability to keep fighting.